Talking sports with Nooner and Forrest on this snowy slash sleet slash winter storm blizzardy day. Brad, is it doing anything there right now?
Yeah, it's snowing pretty good. Streets are pretty much covered. My deck outside, if you can see it outside, is actually covered right now. So I just turned
I
the
saw a
heater
little bit of
around.
it.
Yeah,
And
so it's
it's just barely starting over here. So I mean, it's
yeah.
like I said, we're expected to be off work tomorrow. Well, our boss actually already called me and said we're gonna be. I was gonna be off work tomorrow anyway. All right, so that's just yeah. Usually,
The
usually
weather
during
didn't
the
matter.
usually during the paid holidays, especially with managers, because we technically don't get paid for it. I usually take off. So I mean, it's just, and my boss does too. It's just part of it. All right,
There
so
you go.
so anyway, so this is actually part one that's going to be coming out either late tonight or tomorrow morning. So for those of you who are snowbound inside, you actually have something to do tomorrow. You can listen to this. So we have a very special guest today. I was hoping to bring the other one along as well, but that's okay. One of the owners of IPCW, that is Infinity Pro Championship Wrestling, is here with us, Mr. Cjay Jenkins. How are you doing this evening? Are you prepared for this winter weather slash did you basically did you go out and get a bunch of groceries to be prepared to be snowed in, things like that? What other crazy people
Um,
do?
I mean, I don't think that a little bit of snow is like the end of the world. Whenever I was younger, I actually used to go outside and play football in it. So I'm not really worried about a little bit of snow. So I've been watching it. I've actually been watching it from the living room window outside with the fireplace going. That's what I think about it.
Nice.
There
Nice.
you go. There you go. I tell you what. All right, CJ. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. CJ is one, like I said, he is one of two owners that are part of the IPCW promotion. The other one, Don Riggin. Hopefully he will be able to join us later on this. If not, that is perfectly fine. We
Fingers
will
crossed.
fingers crossed. But if not, we will do our best to get in touch with him on another date. Of course, we have the next one. Let's see here. Over the Top is the next title of the next show. So hopefully, considering that me and Brad are both going to plan on being there, we're going to do a live show there before the actual show starts. We're not doing anything during the show. IPCW, you guys have plenty of people dealing with that kind of stuff, and I'll be in a referee uniform, so I'm not planning on doing any talking other than, the talking that I do as a referee in the ring. So let's get started, CJ. So CJ, IPCW Infinity Pro Championship Wrestling. I know you and Don have both discussed at length with us in the locker room on how this was a dream of yours. Discuss how this promotion came about. I mean, the name and everything. I want to know where y'all came up with the name, everything. So give us some good stuff.
All right. So as y'all probably know, in like long term friendships, there's going to be ups and downs, highs, lows, whatever. So like me and Dawn, we've known each other. I think this year's like the 25th anniversary of our bromance starting. And like from the jump, like we both loved wrestling. He had some favorites that I was like, they're trash. The first wrestler I ever seen on a TV was Steve Borden, also known as Sting. And just man, like as I got older, I learned more about his life, and it really inspired me. But as far as me and Dawn, dude, our parents did not like us hanging out a lot because a lot of things were broken because we thought we can do everything we saw on TV. We didn't know that at our age there was consequences for it. But throughout the years, we stayed in contact. Obviously, we're still friends today. Um, I actually left Arkansas in 2007 and went to Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I started training under Chief Jay Eagle and DeAndre Deluxe Allen Ely. I think that's how he said his name back then. I know it was like four names, and it's hard to remember now. But I went out there. It was the first time I ever stepped in an actual wrestling ring, and it's just like I don't know what all sports y'all have played or what other people played, but you get that itch for something, and it never never goes away. And so I did that, came back, and we're like, one of these days we're going to get a wrestling ring, and we didn't. But we kept that mindset, and then I think it was fast forward years because I had kids. I have my fifth one on the way now. So you're
Jesus.
welcome.
Congratulations.
You're welcome
Lord have
to
mercy.
the repopulation of the world. But fast forward to it was mid 2010s, like 13, 14, 15, something like that. We met some guys, Raymond Evans and Ron Stewart and Tyler Hutchinson, and they had a company that was Christian based called Living Faith Wrestling that they were running in Forest City. Well, me and Ryan and Ray tended to butt heads, so I wasn't really a big part of that. But we moved past that eventually. And Living Faith Wrestling started running in Bryant. I believe our biggest show was actually at the Foursquare Church, I believe it was called. I think it's something different now. It's off Old Military Road. But I think our biggest show there, we packed 230, 240 in this small little
Wow.
youth building.
That's nice.
And it was amazing. I loved every second of it. But eventually I got asked to go to ASWF in Tuckerman, Arkansas.
Been there.
And I went up there in December of 2016. I worked a
Yep.
battle royal, or no, I worked a tag team match. Went to the back, and the booker was like, "Hey, do you want to work this battle royal? Because you need some refinement, but you're not bad." And I'm like, "Sure, why not? It's only hot dogs and handshake." Anyway, so I did the battle royal, and they brought me back. And eventually, they wanted to do this tag storyline, and they're like, "Just find someone to bring in to tag with you." And I messaged Dawn. And I said, "Hey, you want to get in a ring up north and get paid for it?" And he was like, "Yes." So I brought Dawn in. We had a lot of fun up there. I wish he was here because he knows a lot more of his side of the story. We ran up there for a little bit. I want to say it was in, I'm going to fast forward again to 2019. I had a lot of personal demons that I was facing, and I made some really bad decisions, and I got incarcerated. I spent 18 months locked up, and while I was locked up, it was that itch. Like, I keep talking about it. I keep talking about it. There's a lot of things I've talked about and I never did, but I keep talking about having this wrestling company. And so I came up with this concept, GCW. Little unbeknownst to me, there's already a GCW that's pretty well known. At the time, we were going to call it, which is funny, you're going to laugh because you know what title I have. We're going to call it Genesis Championship Wrestling. Because in my eyes,
Yep, Brad. There's a reason I'm laughing. Go ahead, CJ. Sorry.
So in my eyes, the Genesis would mean it's basically the beginning of the rest of anyone's life that came into wrestling, because you could start with us, you can build your foundation, you would have people giving you the tools that you needed to succeed. Because I honestly wish that I had more of that whenever I first got into the business. Instead, it was do this, do that from several different people. But there were a lot of strong guys that, kept my head on right. Like, I'll go ahead and name drop a few of them. Jack Park Jr., JPJ, he's one of my close friends, and I really enjoyed learning from him. Josh Cross, like, I really did idolize his ring work, because for his size, the things that he could do, I was like, how are you doing this? Lee Michaels, that's a guy that I'm actually wrestling maybe for the last time on the 28th. Like, we weren't seeing eye to eye, like, in my early career, but as we've gone through, because a lot of people compared me to Josh, which is funny, but as I go through and I look at like life choices, ring work, style, all that, like, I'm sitting over here thinking like I'm more like Lee Michaels. So like, if I was to follow in someone's footsteps, so I had my incarceration. I know during this time that Don was killing it as Keegan. I believe he's a multi-time SCW champion in Mountain Pine. And I get out. And whenever I get out, I don't know, like, it just hit me. It was like, maybe I shouldn't do it. And it's that doubt that you can't, you shouldn't, don't. So I didn't. And I stayed away from wrestling. And then I don't know if y'all have heard the name Insane Shane, but Shane Bridges reached out to me and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I mean, tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to sit inside and do nothing." And he's like, "Well, why don't you just come up here and work out with me and a couple of the guys with RWE?" And I was like, "I don't know, dude." He's like, "Come on, just do it." I was like, I'll think about it. Later that night, a guy by the name Joey Britt, who ran RWE, was actually the first promoter to reach out to me and ask me if I felt like coming back to wrestling. And that meant a lot. Although me and him have an up and down history, that meant a lot to me, that a promoter actually reached out and wanted to know if I still wanted to be a wrestler. So I messaged Shane. I said, "Damn it, I'll come up there, whatever." I go up there, and like, there's very few people in this world that you get into a ring with and it's just instant chemistry. And Shane's like, "Hey, let's just run a couple of spots. Some of the stuff we used to do, something simple." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And we got in there, and it was even because I took time off before my incarceration. So it was, I want to say, almost 2 years since I've been in a wrestling ring, but it felt so natural. The other students that were there and some of the other workers were watching, and Joey comes out and he's like, "Man, like, I didn't plan on coming out here, but how do you not have any ring rust? Like, you look really good." And I was like, "Okay, cool, thanks." And then I talked to him a little bit longer. I was like, "Okay, I'll work a little bit with y'all." And I did for about a year-ish, off and on. And politics. We all love politics. I'm not going to speak on that, but I will say politics did play a part in me leaving. And I finally decided I'm gonna go work somewhere. I'm gonna put my money back, and I'm gonna do this company. I got back in touch with Don, and he's like, "I'm on board." That's all I needed to hear. I went and I worked a couple other places. I ended up meeting my now fiance, who's carrying my fifth child, Brandy, while I was working at these other places, and she's been like huge in a lot of the building and growth that we've had. Which Ricky, I'm going to correct you. Brandy is a owner too, right?
Did not know that, but I kind of figured that was the case with with you and her being engaged and all that kind of stuff. But that's okay.
I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna be like, "Man, Ricky didn't even want to give you respect as an owner. He said there's only
I
two
did.
of us. There's actually four of us."
Who's the fourth one?
Oh, don't worry about who your other boss is. You'll find out.
Okay. But I mean, just like I said, because be nice, because like, I know she's pregnant, but she can kick my ass. I've seen her wrestle. I mean, come
No,
on.
no, like people have asked me, like, because we had I think it was like at the tail end of a triple threat, and then we had our singles match the following month. They're like, "So she's not really hitting you," and I'm like, "Do you see the red marks, the light bruising?" Yes, she
Oh, she
is.
she was really hitting you. Yep, I've seen it. Well, yeah. So
Um,
now, yeah. No, honest to God, though, I thought it was just you and Don there. I did not know there were four of you. I really
oh
didn't.
yes, there's four of us. But so we started getting together and decided different things that we were going to do and build and grow. And I told Don immediately, I don't want anything to do with creative. If people come to me and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or "Can we run the storyline?" I'll be like, message Don. Because Don, I will tell you right now, like I've told everyone else, I think I've told you before, if Don, because of how creative he is and the way that his mind is for this business, ever came to me and said, "Hey, I got an offer from AEW, TNA, WWE, New Japan, wherever it is, to go and be, whatever, on the writing team," I'm going to tell him to hurry up and pack his bags and go, because he would deserve that. Like, this
Yeah,
man for
he ha-
LFW,
he has a Paul Heyman mindset, Brad.
yeah, he with LFW, he would get us 6 months worth of storylines, and within those 6 months, he would know, okay, some of these guys don't always show up. So he would have a plan. And Ricky's seen this. We would have cancellations, And yes, there's been one, maybe two times that I've been like, hey, Dawn, just do this instead. But most of the time, Dawn's like, okay, we're going to do this. And we go out there and we have an amazing show. Like,
There you go.
and that kind of, and it's just like saving a spot in a match, like being able to save on the fly like that. It's rare. Not everyone has that. And Dawn just does it on like the snap of a finger, drop of a dime, whatever the saying is. So I appreciate him, but I told him, I was like, man, like, even if I come to you with an idea, like I have no, yeah, well, I'm a co-owner. It's you tell me no, it's no. And he's done that several times. And I'm like, okay. And that's
I,
that.
I was just going to say real quickly, I have checked a few things off on Facebook, on y'all's Facebook page, trying to keep up with some of the stuff leading up to y'all's event in Jacksonville on the 28th. And I will have to say, and I think Don's one of those that posted on the video, if I'm not mistaken, on the Facebook page. If that's him, if it's not him, I apologize. But I will say I was pretty that was you, and there was an. Well, I know there was you. I know you posted on there, but there was another posting. It might not be. I don't think it. I'll come think about that. I don't think it was Don. But
Yeah,
anyway,
anything that you see posted. So I mentioned Ryan Stewart earlier. He
yeah,
actually has a company called Maximum Graphics. He does every single one of our little flyers, like the one with Heinzman and Wade Matthews, that I just posted. I think it was today or yesterday. I think it was, yeah, yesterday. So he actually took the animated cartoon looking concept of our title belts and he made them look realistic, like metal. So if you look at that picture and you see that gold big heavyweight title behind both guys, like he took his time to make that look as real as possible,
yeah,
just to make that stand out. He's a solid man. He's really good at his craft, and I do kind of have to
that's
give
really
him a
good.
shout out.
That's really good. That's really good. Good stuff. Um, anyway, I think it's great that you're following your passion. I'll start on and everything else. And congratulations, by the way, for your success post incarceration.
Thank you.
I worked 7.5 years in a prison myself as a chaplain, and so I know it's very hard after incarceration. So I want to give you your props for that. Definitely, uh, CJ. I think that's awesome. Number one. The second thing is that when you're passionate about something, follow your dreams. I think that's a great story of showing that because being Ricky, that's how this podcast came about. Is me and him had a passion for sports, and we've known each other for 17 years. And I mean, I was driving down the road, and I had it on my mind to contact Ricky. I was headed back to Texarkana. I would not forget this. And I was driving down I-30. Ricky calls, and Ricky messaged me. I was like, "What in the world's going on?" And Ricky goes, "Hey, I said, how would you like to do a podcast?" I said, I was going to contact you for the same thing and everything else. And so that's how our podcast came together back in 2001, because it was a passion we both have, a dream in a sense as well as two. And again, a long-term friendship that we both had, that we haven't always been connected, like seeing each other personally, but we've always been friends. It's like a conversation that never ends. We
Yeah,
just
just
pick
keep
back up.
going.
It keeps going. So again, so just to turn it back to y'all's independent promotion, I think it's awesome that y'all y'all follow y'all's dream and y'all follow y'all's passion. And like I said before, me and Ricky are sports fans. And I was telling you earlier, CJ, I've always been a wrestling fan myself. Never wanted to be a wrestler per se, but always been a fan of it. That sort of thing. I don't have the guts to get in the ring. That's just my thing. But I tell you right now, I always been a fan of wrestling, and I was telling CJ, Ricky, while you were letting your dogs out and
Ooh,
everything,
ooh.
that yeah, yeah, that when I was a kid, 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, it was Memphis Championship Wrestling. It was Memphis Wrestling, and it was so great to have wrestling. And they would come into the small towns. One of my favorite territory stories of all time was how Jerry Lawler broke Paul Heyman's jaw in Blytheville, Arkansas. If you ever looked up that story, I mean that's a unique story there because they never really liked each other, but they now respect each other. But it's never been a like between the two. But I think again though it just shows there's so many stories and so many things that can happen in these small towns, especially within these independent small promotions and everything. And I told Ricky last week it's so important to support these small promotions and small and those type of things because you just never know because there's a lot of talent there and there's a lot of talent to discover and you hope that one of these guys make the big leagues uh
Oh
like
yeah.
TNA, AEW, or you kind of that's the what you would love to see one of these guys do it, and how it began is usually from humbling beginnings for most of these guys. So again, I think it's awesome what y'all's doing, and I'm just glad that we're able to support y'all in a small way by having this interview today and having a live podcast and that sort of thing. So um, I just
I
say
mean, if you think
yeah,
about it, back in the day, like I'm
yeah,
showing my age.
well, yeah,
Back in the day, like word of mouth was so much more important and valuable to businesses and
yes,
anything else. Like you weren't jumping on Facebook, you weren't, speed dialing your AOL,
no,
connection. You were
no,
reading the paper, you were putting flyers out. I mean, me and Brandy have went and put flyers out in Benton and Bryant both in the rain. Like you have to have like that next level of dedication and commitment, not
yes,
just not just, oh, hey, you know what, I run this company, go do this. Like my belief, and this is something that I never had in my life, honestly, with a father figure, but my belief as a leader, as an example, is if you're not going to do the work that you're expecting everyone else to do, why should they do it? Be the example, get out there, spread the word, whether it's a small podcast, whether it's, going and putting little flyers up or making networks where you can post on these pages, or you can put flyers up at this building, or you can go, like, I really want to open connections up and like maybe visit a school or a hospital, like I want to do those kinds
yeah,
of things. I don't want it to be like, look at my big fancy banner, now spend $60. Like, some people don't have
yeah,
$60. Like I want to be able to get as many people to these shows as I can. I think $10 as a maximum cost of a ticket is not a terrible thing. It's a lot better than other
no,
places and events that are running. And I'm not talking just wrestling. I mean, there's other things that are just, how did this go from only being $5 10 years ago to now it's $35? Like it makes no sense. So if we can pack it out and still help people save a little bit of money, we're going to do it. I mean, we're a small business. We want to support other small businesses. We want to support
right,
those families that may not be able to get out there and enjoy things like this all the time on I guess you'd say like a worldwide scale, like WWE, AEW. Like, I want to be able to build a brand that all walks of life are like, we're enjoying this together, because that's what the world needs. They need that little spark where they can be like, for a moment, a couple of hours, I was thrilled. I was excited. I felt something other than what I see on TV, what I see on my phone, what I see here. And if I
yeah,
can do that, like for one person, which I'm gonna tell you a really funny story here in a second, but if I can do that for one person, like that means the world to me. Like, we can make $5, but if I made one person's whole weekend, amen. Like
yeah,
that's what it needs to be about. It doesn't need to be about, oh, we're making all this money. Cool. What's money going to get you in the end run? It might get you a fancy new stage. Production isn't everything. It's what goes on in between those ropes. And if your production is all the way up here, but your talent's down here at any kind of event, I mean, that's going to speak
yeah.
volumes, because people are just paying to see stuff that they could go to someone's backyard and watch.
Yeah, and that's a good point, CJ. Again, just having a place where somebody can get away from a couple hours from the real world, just have some fun, some entertainment. And the thing about it is there's so much out there you can do, but to be somewhere where you're not going to get into any trouble or you're not going to do anything like that, You're going to be in somewhere where you're going to be able to be entertained and get to yell at some people, especially the bad guys. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say this for the beginning. I'm going to heckle the referee to death when I'm up there on the 28th. Right now, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to heckle. Yeah, I'm going to heckle him to death. I already know what I'm going to say and everything else.
I mean, Angry Patrick's already going to get a hold of him. Cut him a break.
Yeah, well,
wait,
he's my co-host though.
Hey, y'all chill with all this nonsense. So CJ, I kid you not. If there's anybody that's going to heckle the referee more, it's going to be Brad. True story. This is a true story. So Brad and I. So of course, Brad took me to my first wrestling event. It was WWE Unforgiven in 2007. I'll never forget it. That was a lot of fun. There were times we went to Memphis Grizzly games, and we're talking about. Of course, this is a time when the Grizzlies were horrible. I mean, they were horrible. And so
tickets were cheap though, right?
we paid $5 for a ticket. Now you can't even pay $5 for a ticket. I mean, we sat way up there at the top, but it was still a lot of fun. And we're like, we're just poor college students going to a Memphis Grizzly game. So I will never forget this. So we actually found a little bit of I mean, it was maybe a $25, $30 ticket. We were still in the upper stands, but we was pretty low. I come back from the restroom and I see Brad. I hear Brad like 50 feet away, if not more, just heckling the referee, And there was hardly anybody there as it was. And I guarantee there's some people just looking up there. Who is this guy heckling the referee? But no, I mean, and that's just the thing though. But like, because Brad, one thing with me and Brad is back when I first started officiating basketball, Brad used to drive me to some of the games. It was just something we connected with, and I mean, he would never heckle me like during that time or anything like that because he knew it was different. But I guarantee you, at this promotion, I'm not going to get a break. You think so? Who is
it's
it?
It's gonna be fun.
Who is it that makes fun of my education? Is that Alex that makes fun of my education? One of your announcers up there. Yeah, Alex makes fun of my education, all this other kind of stuff like that. Hey, he's got nothing on Brad. I promise you that.
So you're saying any matches that you're refereeing, we got to put them both in the booth together.
Hey, put them in the booth. Put them in the booth. You put them in the booth. That's perfectly fine. And you can even, if as far as my education goes, Brad will be like, well, yeah, me and him did go to college together, but I was a smart one because I knew the education there sucks, so I left. I mean, you can do something like that.
I will tell you, eventually, Alex is going to be moving out of the booth. That's down the road quite a way. So we will need another guy in the booth. So we'll keep you in mind. We'll keep you in mind for that spot. It could be a lot of fun as long as you continue to heckle the ref, not all of it. Brandy is going to do a little bit of spot refereeing for the over the top, and I would just leave her alone.
I can leave her alone. It'll be all on Ricky.
She will kick your ass, Brad. I promise you that. I've seen her wrestle. The girl's athletic. I mean, she may be pregnant right now, but I guarantee you she will still.
Speaking of, we haven't had any women since found out Brandy was pregnant for obvious reasons. But I do know there's supposed to be a new female wrestler that's debuting in the over-the-top match itself.
Sweet.
I'm not going to tell you who because it's not guaranteed, but there have been talks. She is pretty new, but I was there when she got trained and was still training. So she's good. And she likes to throw forearms just like Brandy for some reason. That's like a thing with women. We're just going to hit you with one of the biggest bones in our arm for like,
absolutely.
Why? We're men. We're tenderhearted. Leave us alone. But that story I was going to tell you all about. So I believe it was our very first show. Brandy came out and there was these two boys that are autistic, which I have two boys that are autistic myself. And she came out and they absolutely loved her. Well, after the show, apparently they didn't get the memo that me and her are together. And we're walking out together thinking no one's there. And here's these two little boys wanting to meet Brandy Lee. And then they see me and they will not come up to her because I'm right next to her. So I'm like, just go over there. And she went over there. And as she's watching me, these two boys are fanning out like, oh my God, it's cool to meet you. They're happy. So I walk up behind them and they turn around, and one of them, I can't remember their names to tell them apart. I know it's Jackson and Jasper. I just can't remember which one's which sometimes. But they see me, and one moves away and goes to his mom, does not want anything to do with me. The other one's kind of hesitant. I'm like, look, it's after the show. I want a belt. I'm in a good mood. Would you like a picture with the belt? And he walked up and he put his hand on it. I'm like, you can't touch it right now, okay? Give me time. I'm just getting used to it. And he got next to me and I took it and I put it over his arm. I'm like, here, put your arm like that. You got to hold it good if you're going to hold it like a champion. So he did. And the next show, whenever I seen him after the show, the one kid that got to hold my title was like, you're my favorite wrestler now. And I'm like, oh man, what did I do?
You're supposed to be a heel, CJ. They're supposed to hate you.
Well, see, they didn't realize Brandy was also a heel with me now. They did not like her being out there with me. But after the show, or no, it was during the show, Lee Michaels, who's going through a transition with his character right now, came out and he didn't know they're autistic. He grabbed one of their signs and threw it. And it really, really upset the kid. He was screaming, crying. Lee tried to apologize to him. Kid didn't want to go near him, would scream anytime Lee got close. So, you know who goes out there and calms it down? Brandy.
His favorite wrestler. Here we go.
Brandy goes out there, talks to him. The kid talked to Lee. Lee, and this is something I love Lee for, because you could watch him in the ring and be like, I really love this guy. I really hate this guy. But at the end of the day, Lee does stuff like this. Like, he took the bandana off that he had been wearing for the show, signed it, and gave it to the kid. And I'm just like, that's something that kid is never going to forget. No matter how much he dislikes Lee Michaels, he's going to remember, okay, he's actually not a crappy person. And I just love it whenever, wrestlers can get away from, and we call it kayfabe, but can get away from that and remember, like, some of these kids do suffer with things, or they have disabilities. Instead of like, rah, 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 they're like, okay, I understand. Like, here, you know what? Let's make amends. Yada yada yada. And I think it's just really cool that he did that. It's one of those things that, like, I respect about him, is that he can go out there, make you hate him, and then you get to know the guy, and you're like, dude's awesome.
See, and CJ, I think one thing that's fair, that's fair. I guess you could say this is fair. A lot of people over the years, and I hear this crap all the time on how wrestling is fake, and it's like, y'all know it's not. I mean, yes, you're telling a story. Let's be real. You're telling a story. The characters that you put into it, they're characters. Let's get that straight. But I've seen the hits you guys have taken. I've seen all the bumps. I've seen all kinds of crazy crap that you guys take. But in a lot of ways, though, CJ, many wrestlers over the years, and I get this from The Undertaker, when The Undertaker did his documentary, and even some of the podcasting that he's done now, he thought his job for the 30-plus years that he was in WWE, he protected the character so much. And even though we knew he wasn't dead, we thought he was insane. And let's be honest. Can we just be honest? A lot of wrestlers are insane. A lot of wrestlers are what you would call not normal. What you would call what's another word that I can use? I'm trying to think of another word that I can use. But
you got to watch your words, because some people get offended these days. They might cancel y'all.
I don't give a damn. What my whole point is I'm one of you. But that's the thing. I'm one of you guys, because I've got that same. Even though I'm not a wrestler, I've got that same crazy mind. I've got that same insane mind.
Yeah, we know Ricky had been normal for a while.
I've been normal my entire life. But I mean, but that's the thing. And so I think in a lot of ways, we're starting to see more wrestlers coming out of their character more than ever. And I think that's one of the reasons why, is because of one of the stories that you mentioned. You meet a child that loves wrestling. And some of these kids like yourselves, of course, me, I didn't have much of a relationship with my dad. I haven't had much of a relationship for years. I had him a little bit when I was a kid, but it was a little bit different. But you never know who you're going to run up against. And you never know, that's going to change their life. And they're going to remember when they're our age, they're going to remember, man, I remember when I was 6, 7 years old. Man, I saw this asshole named Lee Michaels come out and he tore up my sign. But that was one cool son of a gun. That Cjay Jenkins, oh man, that dude was mean, but he let me hold a championship belt after the
Yeah.
show was all over with. So I mean, it is in a lot of ways, it's almost like we're still protecting the character, but we're showing that there's more to wrestling than just the character. There's actual human beings that are doing this. You're taking these bumps, you're taking these hits to entertain the fans. And like I said, I told you from the very beginning when you messaged me, like, Brad, this is a true story. I think it was June or July when you messaged me and you said, "Hey, I got this idea. Would you be on board with it? Get me the dates and I'll be there." And I know you had to change the last one. That's why I couldn't be there. Um, but I'm like, yes, I'm on board. It was on, of course, at this point, we had Saturday shows at this point. But at the same time, but it was like, yes, I will be more than happy to be there. And so I'm proud to be part of this ride with you guys. And all that good stuff. But CJ, would you say that would be a fairly accurate statement that yes, wrestlers do protect their character, but we're more of in a generation where wrestlers are coming out of their character a lot more?
I mean, I believe so. And it's just if you think about it, wrestling is some aspects, and I tell this to everyone, it's a business, it's an industry, it's art, it's a passion. Like I really do believe wrestling is everything because you can be anything you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people are understanding, there's so much knowledge on, okay, so this is actually this person, but whenever they're on TV or they're in a ring or they're portraying this person. So people can separate it enough so that wrestlers are comfortable going and being like, "Hey, what's up?" Doing like autograph signings, like people that you wouldn't think would do autograph signings, like Undertaker did, Kane does, Sting did, Abyss did for a long time. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Judas Macias, Mil Mortes, same guy from Lucha Underground. Like he's done signings. You got Rey Mysterio. Like the weirdest thing is, he took the mask off at WCW, came back with it on, and people were still like, "What's he look like under the mask?" Go watch
Yeah,
WCW.
no.
But
WCW. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are understanding not to crap on others for doing stuff that they want to do, and maybe it's the whole cancel culture, maybe it's just being accepting, like, okay, well, everyone's going to do it, yada yada yada, or they're going to do it anyways. I mean, that's kind of what we do. Is like, honestly, people told us we would never run one show. We
And
would
you're back
never
to
be able to run
and
one
you're
show. We're at
you're
number 5.
number 5. Yep. And I've been
That's
to
awesome.
like I said, I was at the first 3 of them, Brad. I couldn't make the last one. We had our church choir concert
I
that
do
very
have
same
a
night.
I do have a funny story, and I do have a question about kayfabe as well. So many years ago, when I was a kid at one of these independent wrestling promotions, that night the headliner was actually Jim the Animal Neihart. Jim Neihart was the headline at the show, and I remember at the Paragould J.C. Lloyd building at the Greene County Fairgrounds. That's where we were at. We had a crowd, maybe about 300, but there was this young talent. He would end up being R-Truth. He was there, and he was. That's how he got his start. And I remember heckling him to death. He turns around and says, "You go back and watch Dookie Howser. That's who you need to go." and here's the funny thing about it. I did not know who Dookie Howser was. So I actually had to watch the show to figure out what it was, because I was a kid and everything else. So my question to you about kayfabe, I've heard it from traditionalists and modern wrestlers on both sides, and I can see both sides of the argument. My question is, CJ, about kayfabe is, do you believe kayfabe is still important to protect the business? Obviously, I know it's still about entertainment and everything. And I remember, you watch these documentaries now, you'll see how much they went into protecting the character, and even from having the bad guys and good guys. They went to separate hotels to, they didn't eat together. They didn't ride together. They didn't do all this stuff together. Do you think kayfabe could ever be resurrected in the wrestling business?
I mean, it would take a group effort, 100%. Like everyone, any wrestling promotion everywhere would have to say, okay, enough doing these social medias, enough doing this, enough doing that. I
Right.
don't think that's going to happen. But
Right.
the thing that I disagree with, as far as like kayfabe really being broken in the last couple generations, I think that's a myth. Just because if you look back in like the Ric Flair Harley Race era, Greg Valentine, all those guys, like they would do shows and then they would
Yeah.
sit together at Waffle House or Huddle House or wherever. And so to say that this generation or the generation before us has really killed kayfabe, like I don't 100% agree with it. I'm sure this generation and the past one have really pulled the curtain back more than other generations. But if you're going to go wrestle in front of these people and then go 5 minutes from the venue and sit down together and eat and laugh and joke, I mean, you're killing the kayfabe right there. Um,
Right.
One thing that
Right.
that I was taught, and I do try to maintain, if it's like a new show or something, because I will respect the fact that they don't know me up there. Whenever I was actually working in Tuckerman, I was a heel, and I was told it does not matter if you are at Walmart or here or there. Try to maintain your character without being an absolute jerk.
Right.
So I was on my way to Tuckerman. I had to stop, and wrestlers have to get like athletic tape or whatever. I actually think I went in to get a couple of Monster Energy drinks and kill some time. But I go in, and I'd only been in Tuckerman for maybe 2 months at this point, and there's this little boy, and I notice him like peeking around his dad, and I'm just like, okay, this is my chance. This is my chance. And every time I'd feel him look at me, I'd turn and I'd side eye him like this. And finally, I looked and I said, "What do you want?" And he stopped and he looked up at his dad and he looked at me and he did this and he whispered in his dad's ear. And the dad was like, he actually thinks you're a good wrestler and he wants a picture with you. And that
Wow.
shocked me because I don't think I'm a good wrestler. People tell me that all the time. And I'm like, I just go out there, I do what I know how to do as best as I can. And, and I just do it. If it's good, it's good. If it doesn't stick, then, I'll work on it. But I was like, so he wants a picture, huh? It's like, yeah, he wants a picture. I looked at him. I was like, how bad do you want this picture? How much is it? How much is it worth to you? And the little boy finally spoke to me and said it would be worth everything. And it'd be one of my favorite memories. And I'm trying to fight back on my emotion because I'm just like, ugh. And I looked at his dad. I said, it better take you 10 seconds or less to get this picture. And the dad had his phone out. We took the picture. And the kid was like, thank you. And you could ask Dawn about this whenever you talk to him again, Ricky, but me and Dawn had a slogan and we wouldn't say thank you to the fans. We'd say, you're welcome. So whenever he said thank you, I looked at him, I go, you're welcome. And I turned and walked off. And I
Yeah.
kind of like looked as I turned the aisle and the little kid's just sitting there like smiling. I'm like, oh my God, like that was fun. But I think if guys could do stuff like that and at least not be jerks to the
Yeah.
ones that it would mean the most to, because we talk all the time about, moments and matches like last month, which, someone missed. I had a match with
Brag.
Triple J. Triple J is Texarkana Jones' like real life, little brother. And I
Terrific
remember
wrestler too. He was terrific when I had him. Oh, he was terrific.
Triple J, Jesse, whenever he would come to the shows and watch me wrestle, whenever me and his brother were a tag team, whenever we were beating the crap out of each other, like whether I was good or bad, like he was CJ or Tex. And I loved it. So to share that moment with him was amazing. To see him grow into the wrestler he is. But I also think that for me personally, not everyone, because not everyone's the same, is you have these moments with fans, whether they're adults, whether they're kids, you have these moments that, you don't, like we said earlier, you don't know what someone's going through. You don't know what kind of life they've lived. And I mean, some really bad cases, you don't know if that might be keeping them around a little bit longer. So to actually be able to have those moments with fans, it's amazing. It means 100% to me, like to be able to do that. But as far as I mean, Rick, you've seen me at the shows. I don't go out there and mingle with the crowd during intermission. I don't talk to them before the show. I go back there, I get my gear on, and then I just glare at people when I walk out. um,
Man,
but
yeah.
but you can protect. I think you can protect kayfabe at shows if you're very what's the word? It's like vigilant. I think I did. If you're really
Diligent.
truly wanting to, and you push yourself to actually protect. Sorry, I'm putting my belt up because it's freezing and I got to take care of her. Uh, Hopefully Brandy doesn't read that because she'll get mad at me. But if you can protect it during the show, that's awesome. But I mean, after the show, man, like sometimes kids love the bad guy. Sometimes kids just they want to see someone get their comeuppance. So if you can protect kayfabe during the show, give them something afterwards. Give them that payoff, that thing that'll make not just during the show make them pop, but that thing that will stand out in their lives. Something that you may have someone come in that's not a fan and they're like, we got nothing to do. We're going to go catch this wrestling show. And they bring their kids. And then their kids are just sucked in by it. And then next thing you know, you got another generation coming in. I know we're working the details out to start a kids academy because we want to be able to pass on this knowledge. And we also, like I said, I didn't have, that my mom. I had my mom. I love my mom. I'm a mama's boy, but I didn't have a father. But I want to be able to help, whether it's one parent, two parent, whatever parent home. I want to be able to help them because I know sometimes kids don't listen. Mine definitely don't all the time. So there's going to be incentives, like if you're cleaning your room, if you're doing this, if you're doing that, if you're respectful, if you're going to school, if you're finishing homework, and you'll be able to earn little things like it
That's
might be
awesome.
merch, it might be meeting one of your favorite wrestlers, it might be free tickets. Like we're going to do that. And then whenever you get a certain age, if you want to be a wrestler, you will have the opportunity to do so if you want to do it. And if you don't want to be a wrestler, you want to be a referee, we can teach you that. You want to learn, how like some of the production audio visual stuff works, we can get you set up for that. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things going, but like as much as like people say that uh, they've given and given and given, like this is my way of giving back. And I'm telling you, like it's not always easy, man. It is not always easy because sometimes, like you
Goodness.
look at it and you're like, man, like, and again, I go back to Brandy being my rock. There's been, oh man, if Dawn was here, he would be like staring the hole through me. There's been times where uh, I'm just like, man, maybe we should just stop running because it gets so difficult. But Brandy, she's like, look, we figured it out last month. We figured it out this month. We're going to figure it out next month. Dawn, he will sit there and let me vent. And then he'll be like, you feel better? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, cool. Now let's go and run a damn show.
Yeah.
There you
Oh
go.
yeah.
There you
And
go.
I was going to say this. My favorite character. I've always loved the villains too, more than the baby faces per
Oh,
se.
he might
The
like me.
heel, yeah, and the heels. Well, it's like for example, somebody asked me, "Who's your what's your favorite thing about Jerry Lawler?" It was the heel Jerry Lawler. It was never the babyface Jerry Lawler. I mean, that's just the thing. But growing up in Memphis, even seeing him as a heel, you knew he was funny. You knew he could get a crowd riled up. And guess what? He was going to make money either as a heel or a babyface. But as a heel, he was just much funnier, and he was great at it. And of course, if you watch old WWE, watch those Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler stuff. I mean, that'll just get you laughing and rolling right away. I mean, especially how he attacks his family. I mean, I still watch that to this day.
Right.
It's just hilarious. So again, I can see why they come up to the heels and everything. And that's the thing too. I think another thing, CJ, you talked about, it's all about giving back to your local community, especially has a small promotion and everything else. And so much has been given to y'all, a chance to give back to and so much has been given to me too. And one of the things I always express, especially in my profession, being a pastor to my church, is to giving back and to serve other people, to be able to serve those around our communities and everything else. And I just think it's just so important for all of us to be able to give. And the plans that you have, I think it's great. Oh, by the way, if you saw me just waving earlier and going this way, that was my oldest daughter. She is wanted to play in the snow, which I'm thinking, why you have to ask me to play in the snow? Just go.
Yeah,
But anyway,
we'll
Just
dig
go.
you
yeah,
out
just go.
later.
Yeah, I'll be out there later. But that was Paisley right there, and that's a cool thing also about me and Ricky and our friendship. We have daughters that are just under a month apart.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, she's 12 and Ricky's daughter's 12. So I mean, it is kind of amazing again, that friendship and that bond. And of course, obviously your fiance being your rock, having Don there, it does get hard. I mean, I can only imagine running a promotion. Anytime you run a small promotion like that, everything that goes into it, and everything. I just can only imagine how hard that can be at times. But that's why I would encourage anyone that is a wrestling fan that has local wrestling in your town and has local wrestling coming in your town, not even if it's just periodically, go out and support it. Go out to
Oh yeah.
support these guys because they're doing it because they love it. They have a passion for it. They're not getting paid a whole lot of money to do it or anything or at all. It might be just a hot dog. It might be just be like a hot dog and a soda. That's all they might be getting paid for. But the thing about it is they're doing it because they love what they do. And maybe one day you see an R-Truth, a young R-Truth come out and all of a sudden he's at the big time or something like that. But again, I think that's what's the beauty about small town promotions and small promotions like y'all's is the beauty of y'all's doing it because y'all's doing what y'all love to do. And I just say I appreciate y'all for putting the show on, and I'm looking forward to coming up to Jacksonville, being up there with you guys and seeing it and seeing some nice action. Like I said, and heckle the referee. So that's going to be my main goals. So
Well, you do know there's actually, and I know that they're starting at, I believe it's Boogie's Bar and Grill in Hot Springs.
yes,
They're starting there until they get into a different building. So it is going to be a 21 plus show.
right.
But one of our partner promotions is VCW Vapors Championship Wrestling, ran by Keith Daniels and our in ring announcer Rich Rockwell. Both really really awesome dudes. We also have a partnership with TNR. They're actually the ones that provide us with the wrestling ring that we wrestle in, and they run up in the Leachville area. So I mean, it's across the state. There's opportunities to go and see, very quality wrestling. Like you said, it might be the next R-Truth. Someone else that's on a roll right now that he got fired now. Now he's like, making it big time is Swerve Strickland. Like he
Yeah.
started very small. And I believe it was who was that? Cedric Alexander. He started in North Carolina, I believe, went to the Cruiserweight Classic, got signed because he did really, really well. So there's opportunities to see guys that have that potential. Another thing, which I haven't talked too much about it on the page, which, by the way, if you see anything posted on the Facebook page, that's me. um, so we worked out a partnership to be under the Allied Independent Wrestling Federation AIWF banner, and they have a very storied history. I think they have it's like 124, 23 or 24 promotions across like 44, 45 countries.
Nice.
And they have a big event coming up in March, the 2nd and 3rd in Mount Airy, North Carolina. And I've already made plans to go and see Sting's last match because obviously, like that's my favorite wrestler. I'm going to be there for that.
Oh yes.
But the day before, there's a very big possibility that me and Wade Matthews are both in a battle royal in Mount Airy, North Carolina. So we'll see how that pans out. But I mean, there's a lot of big things that are going to be happening. We've actually been in talks going to Texas in May and running a show down there. And I think it's just outside of Dallas, which is a
Road
pretty
trip.
good. Yeah,
Bro, yep.
it's a pretty big spot for us. But like I said, like this company wasn't founded to just be like a little pop up and go. Like I know people say, if you have a parking lot, we can have a wrestling show. I mean, you can, but is there wrestling on your show? Is what you need to figure out first. But with us, like we're networking, we're finding opportunities to not just like get our show out there, get our guys out there. We're going to be growing our women's division, bringing some ladies in, and I think it's like one of the people we've talked to, and we'll have to see what her schedule looks like. I don't know if y'all know her, but Autumn Marie, who wrestles in Tennessee, she's a very talented young lady and someone that I would love to bring in. But we might wait till Brandy's back because they've wrestled before and they've had some really solid matches. But I mean, there's a lot of big things. Whenever I talk in the group chat, Ricky, and I say there's a lot of big things coming this year for Infinity Pro, like I'm not lying. Like
Oh, I
I'm not going to
know.
lie to my
I know.
locker room. And I'm sure I don't know if you remember the picture I sent of the tag team titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be having those before our big event, Legendary, in April, which means we're probably going to be crowning tag champions soon. So, I mean, there's a lot of big
Nice.
things
That
going
is,
on.
and that is the one match we have not had. I haven't called yet. Was a tag match. I've called nothing but single matches, and I'm like, I wonder if there's going to be a tag team. And all of a sudden, oh yes, we're going to have it finally. Good, good, good.
Yeah.
But I am about to have to hop off here. I think Brandy just messaged, says she's off work. So I want to get all that out there. I do appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully, we can spread the word about us, but and also maybe get y'all some more viewers and get some recognition out there for both you gentlemen as well.
Greatly appreciate that. But CJ,
Thank you.
let me. First of all, I do appreciate you joining us. I wish Don would as well. CJ, I'm gonna get you off here. I want you to answer one more question, and I'm dead serious when I ask this question. All right.
Okay.
All right. So you and I met about 10 years ago. That wrestling was something you and I were able to talk about. I told you about some of my days in OCW and all this other kind of stuff. So, with that being said, I remember when you were incarcerated because your mother would get on your Facebook page and give updates on you and everything like that. And I know you
But you love my mom.
appreciate her. Yeah, I know you appreciate her a lot. I hope to meet her. And so, anyway, is it safe to say? Is it fair to say that had you not been incarcerated, would IPCW currently exist right now?
If I hadn't been incarcerated,
Yes.
it's safe to say that if it did, it would not be what it is right now. That I would not have the mindset that I do towards it. I would probably not nurture it the way that I need to. I wouldn't put in the effort. I'd probably hit a wall and say, forget this. I do think because I wasn't just incarcerated, I was incarcerated during COVID. We were locked down quite a bit.
I remember
I would
those
have
days.
never I would never have had the time to reflect and really like I have a notebook and I went into detail on events that you could run, different championships, different match types. Like I would have not have put that much into what we are building. Like it would have been like, okay, cool. So I think our first show, we drew like 63. Cool. That's not what I want. So we're not running another show, regardless of the money that I've already spent. I would have just said, whatever. I'm not going to worry about it because I was very much a follower at that time. And I really do think taking me away from everything that I was around and the influences that were in my life at that time, like it really allowed me to reflect and have time to meditate on, okay, you always tell yourself that you're a leader and you always talk about being a Leo and you're king of the jungle and all this crap, which it's crap, like it is. But I knew that I had the qualities to lead. I just couldn't have done it right. But
Right.
being incarcerated, being able to have time to myself, being isolated, it let me see the people that were going to keep in contact, that were actually worried, that were actually supporting me, that actually wanted me to be better than I was. And whenever I got out, like there's a bunch of people that I got rid of. And I mean, it's just like, it's nothing like, personal. It's just for me, I don't need that in my life anymore. I'm not going
Yep.
to say that I
That's
haven't,
understandable.
I'm not going to say that I
People,
haven't
place.
slipped up and had road bumps, but I've been able to manage myself better than I could have beforehand because I didn't have the knowledge that I did. And it sucks that it took me going to somewhere like that to learn, but I learned, and here we are.
Well, CJ,
Changes I was
go
going to
ahead,
say
Brad.
just changes. I was just going to say changes of people, places, and things. That was always taught when I was in the prison facility. I was down in Texarkana, by the way, CJ.
Oh no,
And
I
of
was in
course I
Dermot.
was there. Oh, you're a Dermot. Oh, Dermot. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Dirty Delta.
Yeah,
out,
Dirty
out in
Delta.
the middle of freaking
Down
nowhere.
in
That's where you
nowhere.
were at.
It
Goodness
is.
gracious.
I remember. I'll share this story just real quick. I remember when I was at a chaplain meeting when all the chaplains came together for a meeting. We used to meet once a month, and the one of the things the chaplain administrator Joshua Mayfield, he made this statement. He said, or he asked, he said, "Does anybody want to become the chaplain at Dermot?" There was nobody that raised their hand.
Well, CJ, I'm rooting for you, man. I'm rooting for this promotion. I will do what I can. I know we've got many shows ahead of us and everything like that. And I'm just proud to see that we've been
Appreciate
able
you.
to come. We've been able to come this far. And so, CJ, once again, I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, Infinity Pro Championship Wrestling over the top. Ready. I am ready for it. So, for that being said, we're going to go ahead and sign off. CJ, thank you for joining us, and thank you for those who listened to this. And we will see y'all next time. Good night, everybody.
Have a good one.
Right.